Hello, everyone, and welcome to another LoLa podcast. And today we have with us Will, who is regarded as one of the UK's leading immersive creative technologists, and he's a leading voice in building new forms of narrative within the creative technology sector. Now, what does all that mean? We'll go into that in a bit. But he's currently an executive creative director at the multi-award winning Sugar Creative, and he sits in the advisory board of Creative Wales, so you know he knows what he's talking about. Now, his current focus is on the potential to bring new realities to life through using cutting-edge spatial and visual positioning systems, combined with place-based narratives and immersive XR. So all that is really exciting, some exciting technology concepts to talk about and how they all fit within the creative sector. So Will, I'll pass it over to you so you can give us a bit of an insight of what it is that you actually do. How does it all come together? Because being on the top of the pyramid and having to filter it down to all the different aspects of this creative process, I bet it takes a lot. So over to you.
Thanks, Roger. Yes, it's a combination of riding a wave, herding cats, and trying not to get sucked into every potential pitfall. But that's also what makes it exciting. Like, you know yourself, like cutting edge technology, you're always finding something, you're doing something that hasn't been done before. With place-based storytelling, that's what really drew me in. We got a whole bunch of technologies that didn't exist 6 months ago, let alone 5 years ago. And we can now start to use them to do really interesting creative things. How we do it, there is no playbook. And that's where I spend a lot of my time writing a playbook, figuring out what works, what doesn't, how it can all come together.
Yeah, of course. When you say place-based, though, what does that actually mean? Because when you're talking about the immersive VR and XR experiences, do you lean towards finding a good place and then creating the XR, or do you start with a virtual and then find the right place for it? How does it all come together?
We always start with place. I've always been fascinated with the idea that every street, every mountain, every set of ruins has an almost infinite number of stories to tell. Right? It's how we think of place, how we think of memory. Like, we imagine ourselves back in a place, we imagine ourselves reliving it. You combine all of that over the entire world, and you have this incredible array of stories that come from these unique locations. And that is where I start a lot of my creative process. Go to a place, walk the streets, talk to people, talk to historians, talk to futurists. Like, what will become of this place? And then build from that. So what if I could share my imagination, if I could share their understanding, what would I come into being? So I like to think of it of making imagination real. So we have an imagined space, we have an imagined story, we go back into history, we're going back into someone else's experiences, and then we're bringing it to life. Very much rooted in that starting place. It's what theatre people call location-based and site-specific work. So it's got a very theatrical tradition as well.
That's very interesting, because when you come to the world of digital and you start creating these environments, usually you tend to be inside the office, you tend to be inside four walls and then start imagining what you're going to do. Whereas you're saying, well, it's obvious that you get blocked when you get in that constant repetitive flow. But what you're saying is that you're using the actual space to trigger this creation, to tell you a story that you can then start creating into whatever you're creating.
Yeah, I started out when I was very, very young. I learned to paint from my mother, who's a professional artist. And almost everything that I painted was en plein air. It was out in the world. You are creating a thing inspired by the world around you. You're taking that into your creative process, and then you're adding to it. And being able to do that digitally, you do have a really different lens. It's not to say that you can't create amazing worlds sat at a desk. Of course you can. Like, writers, game makers do it all the time. But I find something really exciting, really energizing about walking through a place. I did a piece a while back on Jack the Ripper. First ever British serial killer, really, really fascinating story. Walking through the streets of London, I'm a London boy, like, that's where I grew up, into Mitre Square, where Catherine Eddowes' body was found. Now it's a semi-gentrified commercial area. But having read and having understood the story, I could see in my mind the smoky streets of Victorian London, what it would have been like to turn a corner and see the graffiti on the walls, see the body lying there. And that visceral moment, taking that back into a digital space, using new VPS stuff to overlay it into the world, to then let someone walk through time as well as through place. It was really, really cool.
Am I remembering correctly that Jack the Reaper's identity was recently DNA discovered?
I mean, you've had about 20 people all declare that they've suddenly figured it out. It's a guaranteed way to sell about 1 million books. It's something that can't be proved. It's really useful from a creative standpoint.
So you're basically saying it? No, not really.
There are some very smart people making some very smart, educated guesses. I prefer to leave it in the we suspect, but we'll never know, because I think that inspires the next generation of people to go, oh, could it have been? And actually, the story of some loon running around killing people is much less interesting than the light it shines on the rest of Victorian society. And that's where it's really cool for me. Okay,
so let's go back in time then. When you were starting off, how did you get into the industry? After you've had your mother's influence, but how did that transition into the creative work that you do now? And how did you get that technology embedded as well?
So I will always be an artist first and foremost, but I'm also a scientist. So I fell in love with molecular genetics. I fell in love with the idea of being able to understand the most basic blocks of human life and build from that. So I went and studied and have a degree in molecular genetics from King's, which lent me a really scientific mindset and also showed me that there is this incredible challenge of communicating complex scientific concepts in ways that are understandable for everybody. Because I experienced massive pushback in a very complex industry where people were scared of it. So I specialized in communication theory, did some additional work in behavioral theory and developmental psychology, and then moved into communication theory, studying at LCC under the incredible Tony Pritchard to kind of bridge the gap. How do you mix art, creativity, design, scientific principles, behavioral theory, all into this kind of communication mindset? And that's what laid the groundwork for me to then move into technology, because it was a natural progression of all of these tools. And in truth, the reason why I'm doing this is because someone told me that it wouldn't be possible. And I am, if nothing else, a contrary SOB. They said it's not possible to make a new sort of creative technology agency that focuses on narrative. And it's certainly not possible to do it in Wales.
And your reaction was, well, let me model my
Hold
life.
my beer.
Oh, that's one way of going about it.
You're a CEO, you know this. Like, there's nothing more guaranteed to rile you up than someone saying you can't do it.
I don't want to accept it. I don't want to say it out loud, but you're wearing it on your.
Yeah. Go wear it on your sleeve. Be proud of it. Be proud of being contrary.
There you go. So that was it then. You went through your education and you found an interest within the communication aspect of it, how to transfer complicated aspects into plain words, plain concepts, plain ideas, so you can draw people in and get them involved into it. So when that is happening, that's an interest of yours. How does that become a business? Where did you get your inspiration to actually go into business with it?
Anything that's fascinating becomes commercially viable because other people want to experience it. There are problems to be solved. All communication is solving a problem. I have an idea that needs to be shared in some way, shape or form. I've done advertising, marketing stuff, obviously, as part of this. And it's the same set of principles. It's how do I communicate an idea? And what is the most engaging, most simple way to do that? It's again then where you come back to place and experience. It's not using words. Just ideally, if you want to make someone understand what you're feeling, you put them in your head, you put them in your shoes, you let them see through your eyes. And all of the creative technology, all of Immersive, is fundamentally doing that. It's letting you be in my head, it's taking me and putting myself in your head. So that's where it becomes a business, because you are solving a problem and you're allowing a complex idea to be shared. Once you have that, the world is a mollusk of your choosing. Like it's a nice simple thing to extend it to any sector.
Definitely. When was this? What year did you start as a commercial entity?
So I joined Sugar when it was mothballed. I want to say 8 years ago. Crumbs. It's always tough to determine the time when it's the first of start of the month.
Whatever you're thinking.
Yeah. I just add one. Yeah. And that gave a really lovely blank canvas to try and build something fresh and different. And that was, we
Okay.
were fortunate
Well,
enough to
8 years
go out
ago,
a bunch of stuff.
that means it's before COVID, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we've been through the whole COVID thing, 2 recessions, and I'm pretty sure if you offset inflation against growth, it's been almost continuous negative growth for the entire British technology sector for the last 6 years.
It has been. It has really.
None of us told it has been easy, so been very
It's
fortunate.
interesting. We've done a couple of Innovate UK grant funded R&D projects, and it does seem like Innovate UK sees the value into the creative sector. So that it's almost consistent that there is some support, some R&D support into creative projects. But the problem I see with that approach is that creative could mean so many different things. It can be anything from creative in real life to creative digital, and in those umbrellas you have a lot of splits themselves. And then when you go to creative for a purpose, things like in medicine, being able to create an XR environment for training purposes, then it's still creative, but also it serves some different ultimate purpose. So all these different aspects of it, I think it's something that the government is not quite, they can't quite put their finger on it. And they've not realized that it's one of the lifebloods, is what triggers all the push forward. Creative is what pushes everything forward.
I couldn't agree more. I will say that Innovate UK is probably the single most important governmental funding body in terms of what we do on a global stage. So our ability to deliver all the projects that we've delivered at Sugar stems from R&D investment from Innovate UK. We were one of the Audience of the Future projects. We received multiple millions as part of a consortium for that, laid the groundwork for delivering world firsts again and again and again. So that is fantastic. But you're not wrong that there is an intrinsic assumption of siloization. Like creative must be entertainment, or creative must be a given purpose, or it's medicine, that means it's not creative. You're right to highlight creative lives above everything. You're making something that didn't exist before. That is creativity. And that cascades into every single silo. It's one of the reasons why I was really engaged to join the Creative Wales board. So devolved region, Welsh nation, they have their own advisory panel on the creative technology and the creative sector as a whole, looking at how it moves into industry. And they've done a really amazing job, not just of support, but that de-siloization. They've got a really broad approach that is paying huge dividends.
Okay, so they've done it right then. You see it as...
They're doing it right. They're in the process.
Okay, interesting. So in terms of where you are today as a company and you professionally and your team, how are you commercializing in the industry? What is the product? What is the service? What does a person that might approach you for any kind of engagement, what do they need to be thinking about? What can they expect from you?
So this is where myself and my colleague, the managing director of Sugar, Jason.
You've fallen out. The business is going under now because you don't agree. No,
it's because there is that question of, well, what are we selling? And I walk into a room and I say, I'm not selling you anything. I'm providing support to answer a question. I'm helping you solve a problem. If you have a problem, bring us on board, and that's where we work best. Bring us on board, we'll help you identify the problems, and then we'll help you work out solutions that use new technologies in a creative way. We'll break down your assumptions, and then the thing that comes out at the end, no idea what it could be. But that's a really hard sell. I'm not going to lie, commercially, that's a really stupid thing to walk into a room with. Like, what are you going to give us? No idea. But that's going to be fun finding out. Can I have $500,000, please?
Can you please help me figure out what I'm selling to you?
Yeah, and actually, it's really bad where we often have this issue where we walk into a room, someone will have a preconception of like, we need one of these. And being contrary as I am, I go, are you sure you need one of these? When actually I know I should go, yes, of course we can give you one of those. That's the smart thing to do. But I genuinely believe our role is to offer value. It's value add. It's really, really simple. We go in, we help people understand, and then we come up with something that we couldn't have thought of before because we're using their insights. We're not coming in knowing everything. We can't. No one can know everything. You go in, you learn from your client, and then that learning is what informs the innovation.
Okay. What does your what would your CEO answer to this? The same question.
We're able to deliver the thing that hasn't been done before, is often the line. That, or we deliver wonder. Either you wonder what could happen, or you need some wonder delivered to the world. We can help you with both of those. So a really cool, exciting project that was recently announced at AWE is to bring the American Revolution to life. So we're working with Boston and New York, so the Gotham Center and Revolutionary Spaces in those two cities, and then also with Ubisoft, who have recreated the American Revolution through Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Rogue, underpinned by some funding from Welsh Government and some R&D investment from T-Mobile as to what's possible with new network capabilities. We're saying, well, can we tell the story of the American Revolution in these cities in a completely new way? Can we bring digital technologies? Can we bring assets from AAA games? Can we meld it all together with historical storytelling? And the ask there and the offer is, do you not want to step back into one of the most important pivotal moments in history, educate, engage, entertain all at once, which is what I see as the future of public discourse.
I'm really taking this in because I'm obviously having the technology background. I'm thinking about all the complexity that's involved in first recreating it digitally, but then you're going a step further. It's not just the recreation, it's actually overlaying it in a way on an actual location, on a geolocation, in an XR environment style, whilst keeping it safe. So people are not in VR, they're in XR, and they are getting some kind of value whilst also triggering their imagination to think back about what they're experiencing. Because you're not reading in the book, you don't need to imagine it, you're actually living it. And that's a big page turner right there. You go to the next chapter of how you transfer that information.
I do a lot of volunteer teaching, and one of the things that I do to get children engaged is to really put them in the place that we're talking about. And actually, once you transport them to somewhere in their imagination, be it history, literature, mathematics, science, these all flow from that moment of being somewhere else. I think most people who are kind of 35 and up will remember the idea of Inner Space, the old film, where you get shrunk down and transported into a body. You want to explain science, you start there. If I was walking around the inside your body, what would I see? How would I feel about it? So it's that idea of inspiring curiosity through transportation, through that imagined space.
When is that coming out? When is the actual experience available?
So the Boston and New York experiences, which are under the umbrella of Echoes of Revolution, will come out it'll be just before the anniversary. So by the 4th of July, 2026, you'll be able to walk around and experience these things.
So you essentially have 4 months worth of creation before you go into testing mode?
Yes, we've been working on it for quite an extended period. So we're already in testing mode, which is quite nice. It does involve a lot of flying back and forth to America and a lot of time spent freezing my ass off in very cold northeasterly cities.
Yeah, but I bet it's lovely when you get there, even if it's cold.
Yeah. There is no city on earth that is closer to London than New York, and I have absolutely fallen in love with it, having spent many months there.
If and when the time comes, I'll expect an invite and I'll come on.
More than welcome. The Mayor of Boston is being very supportive, as is the 250 Commissioner in New York, as is the UK government. We hopefully be able to announce a few more bits and pieces around it soon.
Amazing. Where can people actually come and look at something? Can they visit your website? Do you have a page dedicated to this project?
Yes, there's an announcement page there which we're going to be updating. But most of the big public-facing announcements will happen in the next month or two as we ramp up.
I'll keep my eyes open. So you're here now, you are delivering this amazing project, and by summertime, you will be in the thick of it. You will be out there actually demonstrating what you've built over the last, I'm guessing, 18 months, 2 years?
Yeah, slightly less than that for the project. It moves off the back of a project that's just closed down in Winchester called 878 AD. That looked at the same basic principles, but it wasn't as advanced. And that itself was based on a project we did with Wallace and Gromit.
Okay.
trying to bring their stories to life in the real world. So it's been a natural progression. And actually that Wallace and Gromit piece was co-funded by Innovate UK. So there is that R&D innovation, find projects, move it forward, carry on innovating, which has been really, really fun to
What kind of technology do you use? Are you going into
It's super duper secret. No, we are incredibly vocal about how insanely awesome Niantic Spatial is. So Niantic, the company originally behind Pokemon Go, are actually a geospatial mapping company. I'm sure you know them well. For those who are listening who don't, they are not only the most innovative approach to what space means. They're trying to map the entire world and then try and let digital systems understand anywhere that you're stood. They're also lovely humans. We all know you meet big tech corporate and you kind of go, oh, I wish I was anywhere else. With these guys, you want to join them on their journey. And without their support, none of what we do would have been possible. They're a constant boon to the creative technology sector. I can only speak highly of them.
So is it a case of the experience then being in an AR space on a phone? Would you be able to use the technology that they're providing to you, essentially to overlay into the real world?
So the basis of their location-based understanding is visual positioning system. So it compares what the device camera sees, so your phone, to whatever's in the real world. And then because it has a very clever set of artificial intelligence-based algorithms, it can infer where you are based upon what the camera is seeing. And it can do this to an accuracy of like a few centimeters.
That's really, really interesting.
I was insanely skeptical because that sounds impossible. Like, of course it does. Like,
you're thinking GPS, and then GPS, that's 3 to 4 meters at the best case of of error. And now you're talking centimeters. How does that work?
It's interpreting depth and interpreting, because you have a full awareness of a place, where you must be based upon what your camera is saying. So you reverse engineering it. It's like using defined trig points if you were navigating, but on a much, much more complex scale.
So it's essentially a layer on top of a layer of geolocation. So you go to the geolocation on GPS, you find the general location, and then based on what the map tells you should be there, it picks up the camera and it maps the environment and kind of says, well, that looks like you're here, not quite there. And
exactly.
And all that in real time whilst playing back some kind of virtual recreation of something.
About 4 seconds to locate you. So you hold your phone up, you explain to someone what's happening, and by the time you've explained it, it's already locked you in place.
That is so amazing. Such an incredible technology.
And then because we know where you are, we can also know where someone else is. And actually several of the experiences in Boston and New York are multiplayer.
Do they have any VR versions of this? I know they've done their application, their technology.
Yeah, so Snap goggles can support it. So when you're out with wearables on, obviously you don't really want it at home. There's not a lot of value to that. But when you're out wearing a pair of glasses, we're fortunate enough to test and develop for a number of applications around that. Again, you then just removed the impediment of a phone, and you're starting to make it purely seamless. I'm looking forward 10 years where I'm walking down a street, going for a walk in a city I've never been to, and I want to understand what its history is, and I'm just swiping across my glasses and going, oh, cool, tell me about how the Borgias impacted the city in Italy that I'm stood in. I want to understand how Da Vinci in Milan understood the city and how that fed into his artwork. And I'm popping in and out of galleries, and I'm going back to the street and I'm seeing it and seeing his experience of it. That's what I'm hoping. That's what we're leaning towards. That's what excites me.
That does sound amazing. And I'm actually recreating all the applications that are as close to what you're describing today. And the closest I can get to is just a standard VR game that I've seen a clip of, where they overlay things in the room and they kind of take it to a different space, but using the same layout of the room. I'm not sure if you've seen that. It's like the zombie attack version of inside your home. But what you're doing, rather than going into a virtual world, you're going back in time in the same space, and you're overlaying information, whether that's audio in this case. And I'm sure with integration of AI, once you get past this first version, you'd be able to create almost like a museum of history in real life, using a wearable device whilst also overlaying information into the real world. That's the dream.
Yeah, we can already do audio and visual. We can do spatial audio. We do full three-dimensional models. So we're pretty much there. What I'd love to be able to do is look at this also from a futurist point of view. I work very closely with a phenomenal chap, Dr. Richard Cadell out of Cardiff Uni. He's one of the really leading experts on environmental law and on how environmental understanding affects how cultures and our relationships to the planet evolves. I'm trying to simplify it because it gets very, very complex very, very fast. But essentially, he's a constant challenge and inspiration for how can we envisage the future? How can we take what I've just been talking about and say, what future worlds can we present? And how in presenting the future worlds do we better understand our present? That then gets another layer. But you can hear, I get super excited about it. Super excited about it. Entertaining, but entertaining with this lens of understanding.
Does it also give an opening, a gateway to other people that don't currently have the technology or the capabilities you do, creators that want to create these stories, for you to provide a platform for them to create these stories with the technology sussed out essentially from the work that you've done?
Yeah, we do have internal platforms that let us do that effectively. We tend not to just outsource it as a platform because the creative process, as you pointed out earlier on, is complex. How do you make sure something's safe? How do you use the space? I mean, when we were doing one piece of testing, I discovered that just scanning an environment without warning the people there is a really inadvisable thing to do when it's a government building. As I turned around, some very serious gentlemen with some very serious looking guns. Yeah. And there's me with a phone going, hello. Okay, I'm going to put my hands up. Yeah.
I'm just scanning your government building very casually.
Really silly examples, but yeah, how you look at space and how you turn it into a playable area is quite complex. But what you're saying around how do we work with other creatives? Yes, we offer platforms. Yes, we offer tools. And we've done that with a number of things. We've got some projects coming up that we're looking at with the former Welsh Children's Poet Laureate, Connor Allen. He is a big advocate for dealing with trauma through creativity, through with elements of racial inclusion, all sorts of really interesting creative ideas based upon his own experiences as theatre director, actor, poet. Working with him, going, what are the stories you want to tell? And then how can we work with you collaboratively to tell those stories in an interesting way?
That's amazing. And I was actually going to ask about the technology that you're using because I've recently started getting into drone recording. And I was thinking in terms of large buildings, like very large buildings, would you do any scanning based on drone technology? Would you fly around and actually record a building?
So that is how you are building a mesh. Fortunately, Niantic are doing a lot of that themselves. They're mapping a lot of the world. We go in more often than not and map ourselves, but give it 5 years, most of it will have been mapped with drones anyway. But yes, you can use drones to build the digital understanding of a place. So it uses Gaussian splats. So you take an infinite number of tiny points in three-dimensional space, and then that creates a full understandable map. You can do that from within a drone.
Well, it's essentially what Google Maps has been doing for years in terms of driving around with cars and picking up all the road layouts so you can do street view. But now you're taking that and bringing it into a texture 3D environment place. And they're actually mapping the world, as you said. So there will be like a timestamp of the recording that was done, and it could be updated over time, which is exactly what Google Maps is doing with the layouts. They say 2011, that's when that was recorded. And then you've got busy streets being recorded more often. So are you saying that in the future, there will be a 3D model of essentially all the busy areas on Earth where you can three-dimensionally visit the space through VR or XR experiences?
Yeah, you can also use these to visit a place. We get more excited by the fact that that lets you understand the place. So you've got semantic understanding so that you can place people there, but you're not wrong. Like once you've got these scans, you can really easily visit a huge number of locations.
It does remind me of all the GTA and Assassin's Creed players where they come online and they visit the actual place where the game play happens. And they're like, I know this map, I know this area, I know exactly where I'm going.
It's why we've worked so much with Ubisoft. The Assassin's Creed team are phenomenal, and we've done a number of projects with them exploring how you use the worlds they've created and working with the historians. I don't know how many of your listeners will know that the Assassin's Creed games in particular have an insanely good historical pedigree. They have an internal historical team who do an enormous amount of research to make sure it's accurate. They then choose where to break that accuracy to make sure the games are fun, but it's rooted in this historical realism. And you can
really interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that's what makes them really interesting. You kind of recognize the stories that you've heard of in history and other sources, and you start embedding the storyline of Assassin's Creed, and that's why I love them as games as well. They have slightly gone off over the last the latest versions, but the first few, they were so well put together. The storytelling behind it and how they embed place, history, and storytelling creative into one mix, that's what made them so special. Still there? My pause? Hello?
Sorry, my internet's just paused.
You back now?
Am I back?
I can hear you well. You're not paused on my end. Can you hear me?
Sorry, Roger. I can hear you. I don't know if it's your or my internet.
Okay, well, I can hear you well. So if you can hear my question, the next question I was going to ask is, what is the future for your company? Where do you envision after this project you going into, and what's the ultimate goal for you guys?
I want to do more of what we've been doing. There are, even during the development process for these projects, I've come across 10 or 15 stories in different countries, in different cities, that I am itching to tell. Stuff that is less well aware of. We're talking with the Welsh government about the history of the castles in Wales. And I'm a keen outdoorsy kind of guy. I climb a lot. Being able to go and walk those more rural, rugged areas and hear the stories of the Celts, that would be really fun. But beyond that, I want to see more of a desolarization. I want to see what we're talking about used to help understand maths and science and all of these really important sociocultural things. Because I think once you inspire people with ideas, you're then going to get this enormous knock-on. So I think that desolarized approach to creativity to create real inspiration. It's a big ask, I know. I'm not going to do it all by myself, but if I can inspire some other companies and inspire some people, then maybe we can get a real innovation approach to a lot of social learning.
It does sound like you've got a very good mix of large companies in play already. So I wouldn't be surprised if just one more organization that leads towards education, information, and leading creativity in that manner, when you already built the infrastructure, well, the companies that you've brought together and the work that you've done together created this platform, then suddenly it's just a direction approach rather than a technical approach. So the moment you get to that point, which is, well, you're there basically, then you just need that different direction with a new organization to support it and fund it. And suddenly all these amazing things start popping out, don't they?
Oh yeah, the only barrier to our growth at the moment is the availability of venture capital as investment.
It's hard, isn't it?
It's hard, not an easy timing, especially. Yeah, there's also just not a lot of money flowing around. We are doing a raise at the moment, and it's going well, but we're also doing project raises where we're kind of looking at specific ideas and going, look, just invest into this idea and then we'll just do this one thing together. But everyone's hesitant. Everyone is coming off the back of a whole bunch of scary, and you see in some politics, no one's going to be diving.
The economy in the UK as a whole, there's no risk funding available. And we've seen that problem as well. We've recently run our crowdfunding campaign as a seed round. And we run that in Europe because we wanted to allow European countries to invest in us. But we are based in the UK and in Manchester specifically. Throughout the process, we have found that there's a lot of interest in what we do. People do like what we're working on, and they say, yes, that's amazing, you should do that. And then they're like, well, we can't really invest in it at this moment in time, or you're too early, or there's not quite a good match. And the whole round has been completed essentially from European capital. So we're a UK-based business that are fully funded by the EU, which is, it's not
frustrating, isn't it?
Where's your funding coming from? Is it mostly from the UK, or are you focusing in the UK? Because obviously you've got the Innovate UK grant as well.
Non-specific.
Okay, so you could essentially raise from anywhere.
We are an international business doing international things, and we are fortunate to be based in Wales, in the UK, but we don't see ourselves as being constrained by that. We would love to be able to get UK investment to grow, but if it happens to be American investment or European investment, yeah, fine, so be it.
It does sound, from what I've seen around, that it might be Saudi investment. It seems like there's a lot of funding for creative and digital over in that part of the world.
Hello.
Are we back?
Yeah, I had no idea what that was. It was fine, and then it just went. Bing,
It just stopped.
off.
Well, there you go. Those are the constraints of technology today. So, as a final note, before we get lost again, do you have anything you'd like to highlight at the end, or any inspirational quote, or something that you want to leave the listeners with? Because that's usually what I use as well for the title of the episode. What do you have in your mind? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but that's the point of this interview, isn't it?
So, there are two quotes that I absolutely love. Both are from very, very silly humans. The first comes from Douglas Adams, which is probably the least helpful and the least businessy one you could possibly imagine. It was when he was asked about deadlines. He remarked that he loves the sound of them as they whoosh past. And it always reminds me to smile at the absurdity of our situation when it comes to the impossible tech deadlines, the shifting nature of technology. Like, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. And I know that I shouldn't say that out loud because clients are a thing, but we are stepping into the unknown, and we have to do that with a smile on our face when we're dealing with the cutting edge. And the second would be from the phenomenal Terry Pratchett, a man who is a constant inspiration, which when he was asked about how he's been so lucky, he got a little bit irritated, and he said, "It's amazing. The harder I work, the luckier I get." And there is, when dealing with cutting edge stuff, there is no substitute for just putting the hours in. Like, no one's going to tell you how to do it. You've got to go out and be brave. You've got to be brave and figure it out yourself. So you just got to put those hours in. You know this, you're a multi-award winning business leader. Like, you haven't got there by just being hopeful. You've got it by trusting yourself. So all of these things really factor into our approach to creativity.
Those are two amazing notes to leave the conversation with. And I want to jump in and add to it, but I will not, because that was... I do appreciate your time, Will.
Absolute pleasure, Roger.
And if you guys want to go and check out the amazing projects that are happening over at Sugar, the link is
Sugar.agency.
There you go. Okay, thank you, Will.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.